Welcome to the TigerDen podcast, your daily source for all things sawdust, sparks, and shop talk. It is Monday, January 26th, 2026, and I am your host, Tiger. I'm feeling energized today. There's just something about a Monday morning. The shop is clean, the coffee is hot, and the possibilities for the week are wide open.
And I'm Alex. I'm here as always to pick Tiger's brain and hopefully keep us from descending too deep into the rabbit hole of tool talk. Although, looking at today's lineup, I think I might be fighting a losing battle. Happy Monday, Tiger. How's the shop looking?
Honestly, Alex, it's a bit of a disaster zone. I spent the weekend wrestling with some walnut slabs, and I think the sawdust has officially claimed territory over my workbench. But that's the sign of a good weekend, right? Today, we've got a packed Monday Maker report. We're talking about some serious Tool Prime Day leftovers, a new challenger in the world of joinery that might save some of you $1,000, and we're going to get a little zen with a deep dive into end grain cutting board construction.
I'm really interested in that joinery piece. I've seen those expensive green tools online, and my wallet usually hides in the couch cushions when I look at the price tag. But before we get there, let's talk about these sales. You said we're on day 4 of these woodworking Prime Day deals. Is there anything actually left worth buying?
It's a great question, and here's a pro tip for everyone listening. Day 4 is actually when the accessory goldmine opens up. Everyone rushes on day 1 to buy the big table saws and the miter saws. By day 4, the retailers start slashing prices on the consumables and the support gear to move volume.
So, what's on the list? What should I be clicking on right now?
Parallel clamps. If you are a woodworker, you can never, and I mean never, have enough parallel clamps. I learned this the hard way during a massive tabletop glue up a few years back. I ran out of clamps midway through, the glue was setting, and I was literally using ratchet straps and house bricks to try and keep the joints tight. It was a nightmare. Right now, we're seeing brands like Jet and Bessie offering 30 to 40% off on those 24 and 48-inch clamps.
Wait, can you explain that more? Why parallel clamps specifically? I've got a bunch of those cheap F-style clamps from the hardware store. Aren't they all doing the same thing?
Not even close, Alex. F-style clamps are great for holding a board to a bench, but when you're gluing up a panel, they tend to apply pressure at an angle. They can actually bow your wood. Parallel clamps have massive jaws that stay, you guessed it, perfectly parallel. They distribute pressure evenly across the whole surface. If you want a flat tabletop, you need parallel clamps. Also, keep an eye out for Forstner bits. A high-quality set of TiN-coated titanium nitride bits is currently sitting at an all-time low. They're the ones that give you those clean, flat-bottomed holes.
Okay, I'll add clamping superiority to my shopping list. But let's move on to the big news. You mentioned a domino rival. For those of us who aren't deep in the Festool ecosystem, what exactly is a domino, and why is it a big deal that there's a new rival?
Oh man, this is the holy grail of joinery tools for many, the Festool. Domino is a handheld tool that cuts a rectangular hole, a mortise, into 2 pieces of wood. You then stick a wooden tenon, like a flattened dowel, into those holes, and boom, you have a joint that is incredibly strong and perfectly aligned.
That sounds simple. Why does it cost over $1,000?
Precision and patents mostly. It has a unique wobble motion with the cutter head that makes a perfect mortise in seconds. But as of this morning, a new player has hit the market with a precision jig. Instead of being a standalone $1,500 tool, this is a high-end machined aluminum jig that you mount a standard small trim router into.
That's interesting. So what you're saying is, I don't have to buy a whole new specialized power tool. I can just use the router I already have.
Exactly. It uses a clever lever system to mimic that side-to-side oscillation. Now, is it as fast as a domino? No. You have to clamp the jig to your workpiece. But for a hobbyist who is making 3 or 4 dining tables a year, spending $200 on a jig versus $1,500 on a proprietary tool is a massive win. I've been watching the early reviews, and the tolerances are tight, down to the thousandth of an inch. It's democratization of high-end joinery, Alex. It's a game changer.
I love that. I love tools that make pro results accessible to the weekend warrior. Speaking of power tools, you mentioned 12 new drops from the big brands Milwaukee, DeWalt, Ryobi. Is there anything actually revolutionary here, or is it just another cordless drill with a slightly different shade of yellow?
Laughs. I get the skepticism. Sometimes it feels like they just change the grip texture and call it new for 2026. But there are two things in this drop that caught my eye. First, Milwaukee has expanded their MX Fuel line to include a high output cordless pressure washer that actually rivals gas powered units. For shop cleanup or washing down metal stock before fabrication, not having to pull start an engine is a dream.
A cordless pressure washer that actually works? I've used the little 18-volt ones, and they're basically just glorified garden hoses.
These are different. They're running on much higher voltage platforms. But for the woodworkers, Harbor Freight's Icon and Hercules lines are the ones to watch. They just announced a refined job site saw with a rack and pinion fence. I've always said, if you're starting out, don't sleep on the high-end Harbor Freight stuff. They are closing the gap on the pro brands rapidly.
It's amazing how fast the tech is moving. I remember when cordless meant you could barely screw in a light bulb before the battery died. Now we're talking about pressure washers and table saws.
It really is a golden age for makers. But Alex, all the tools in the world won't help you if you don't have a project to use them on. And that brings us to something I'm really passionate about, the zen of the workshop.
You're talking about the end grain cutting board video you found, right? End grain cutting board, relaxing woodworking by Maker Channel. I watched a bit of that. It's strangely hypnotic.
Isn't it? If you're feeling stressed, there is nothing like making an end grain board. For the listeners who don't know the difference, a long grain board is what you usually see. The wood fibers run horizontally. In an end grain board, the fibers stand vertically, like a bunch of drinking straws bundled together.
And why is that better? Is it just for the looks? Because the patterns in that video, that brick lay look, were stunning.
It looks incredible, but it's actually functional. Because the fibers are vertical, when you hit it with a knife, the blade slides between the fibers rather than cutting across them. It's better for your knives, and the board heals itself as the fibers spring back. But here's where I learned a lesson the hard way. Your glue up has to be perfect.
Wait, can you explain that more? Why is the glue up different for end grain?
Because you're gluing wood together in a way that goes against its natural movement. If you don't use a waterproof, high-strength glue like Titebond 3, and if you don't ensure your segments are perfectly square, the board will literally pull itself apart the first time it gets wet. In the video, the Maker Channel guy uses a brick lay pattern. You basically glue up a long grain board, cross-cut it into strips, flip those strips 90 degrees, and glue them back together.
It sounds like a lot of repetitive work. Is that the relaxing part?
It is. It's what I call process woodworking. There's no complex joinery or difficult measurements. It's just precision cutting, careful alignment, and then the sanding. Oh, the sanding. End grain is notoriously difficult to sand because you're sanding the ends of the straws, which are very hard. You'll spend hours going from 80 grit up to 320.
That doesn't sound relaxing, Tiger. That sounds like a workout.
Laughs. You'd think so, but there's a meditative quality to it, and the payoff. Alex, there's nothing in the world of making quite like the oil reveal on an end grain board. You've spent hours sanding this dull grayish brown block of wood. Then you pour on that food grade mineral oil. The wood turns deep chocolate, the grain pops, and suddenly this piece of art appears under your hands. It's the closest thing we have to magic in the shop.
I've seen the videos where they do that. Use the oil and the whole thing just glows. It's definitely satisfying to watch. So if I wanted to try this and I have a pile of scrap wood, walnut, maple, cherry, can I just mix them all together?
That's exactly what you should do. In fact, that's a pro tip for the budget-conscious maker. End grain boards are the best way to turn trash into cash. Those 6-inch offcuts of walnut that are too small for a furniture project, those are the stars of a cutting board. Just make sure you're using hardwoods. Avoid softwoods like pine or cedar. They're too porous and will soak up food juices. Stick to maple, walnut, cherry, or even purple heart if you want some color.
food juices is a very vivid way to put it, Tiger. Note taken. No pine cutting boards.
Definitely not. So we've covered the tools, the sales, and the projects. I think the biggest takeaway for me this Monday is that whether you're buying a new $200 router jig or just spending $15 on a bottle of mineral oil and some sandpaper, the goal is just to get out there and move the needle on a project.
I agree. And it sounds like the TigerDen community is already on it. I saw some posts in the forum this morning that were incredible.
They really are. To everyone listening, the TigerDen community forum is where the real magic happens. We've got people sharing photos of their first dovetail joints, people troubleshooting metal lathes, and honestly, some of the best advice I've ever seen on finishing techniques. If you're stuck on a project, maybe your cutting board split, or you can't get your table saw fence aligned, head over there. Post a photo. Our community is incredibly supportive.
And it's not just for pros, right? I mean, I'm still a complete novice, and everyone there has been so patient with my dumb questions.
There are no dumb questions in the den, Alex. We all started with a dull saw and a dream.
Laughs. Well said. So, before we wrap up, Tiger, give us the Daily Digest summary. What do we need to remember for today, January 26th?
Here it is. 1. Check those sales. It's day 4 of Woodworking Prime Day. Focus on parallel clamps, Forstner bits, and router bits. The small stuff is where the biggest savings are right now. 2. Watch the joinery market. If you've wanted a domino but couldn't justify the price, look into the new router-based mortise jigs hitting the market this week. 3. Keep an eye on the 12 new power tool drops. Whether you're on the Milwaukee, DeWalt, or Harbor Freight battery platforms, there are some serious upgrades coming your way, especially in the high-output cordless sector. 4. Build something for the soul. Try an end grain cutting board. Use your hardwoods. Be patient with the sanding and enjoy that final oil finish.
Perfect. And stay tuned for our next episode where I think Tiger is going to explain to me why I need a $400 Japanese handsaw when I have a perfectly good one in my garage.
Shaditar laughs. Oh, you don't even know what you're missing yet, Alex.
I'm scared for my bank account. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Stay creative, stay safe in the shop, always wear your eye protection, and let's build something awesome. We'll see you tomorrow in the den. Outro music. The acoustic guitar swells, followed by the sound of a shop vacuum turning on and then silence. End of script.